Hi, everybody. Welcome. All right. I think we are all set. All the things are going. So, like always, I'll give everybody just a minute because it's exactly 1 o'clock, but we're going to jump in because you know how I like to give plenty of information in a small amount of time. It's one of my challenges in my life. So welcome y'all to the last day. So it's day 6 of our 6 class masterclass. And so far in this series, we've been able to kind of walk through the 5 elements. We've been looking at the relationship between the elements, and then we've been looking at how to use that information with the genius. And so today we're going to be doing a little bit of wrapping up. We're going to kind of wrap it all up at the end, but first we're going to be talking about human design. And it can feel a little bit like a pivot right now in the middle of this masterclass to jump over and start talking about human design. But I debated whether or not to put this in the masterclass, but I feel like it's really important for a couple of reasons. And we'll see that as we get into this and we kind of start talking about human design. But I felt like in my own practice with my own clients and doing the kind of work I do, which again is more of that deeper alchemical transformational work, I have found that the tool that helps me best to understand where people are going to most likely have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual imbalances is in relationship to human design, to the I Ching, to gene keys. And I've found they work really well together when we understand human design and we understand some of what's going on there. And then we are able to use our 5 element work to create harmony, to do some of that deeper energetic work necessary in order for us to live that design. So I debated, like, is this the right time? Is this the right place? But it just felt like really important information that I wanted to share with you guys in this master series. And of course, we're going to go on and talk much more deeply about all of these things in NeuroCohesion 1 and 2. But so today the goal is to kind of give you an overview. And so let me get my screen share started and we will jump right into our presentation. All right, so let's talk about human design. There's lots of human design is something that is kind of an up and coming archetypal system that you can work with your clients. And so it is a modern interpretation of a combination of many archetypal systems. So it's an archetypal tool, and it is a blend of astrology, of the I Ching, of the chakra system, of the Kabbalah. And so it's got this real depth to it when it starts to integrate all of these different archetypal systems. And so why do archetypes matter, right? So in my work, when we're doing this neurocohesion work, which I would call alchemical or transformational work, you're really needing to look at the deeper patterns, belief systems, mental patterns, emotions, and associated physiology as kind of one thing. And if you remember back to the beginning of our class, I talked a little bit about the archetypes then, because the 5 elements themselves are archetypes. We look at them through the lens of an archetype. And so an archetype is a collective, it's a beyond the conscious mind. It's a collective unconscious gathering of attitudes and beliefs and thought patterns and emotions. And they tend to be something that we all experience as humans. They kind of be what we would call the supramental level of us as humans. And what I like to say is that they create the lenses that we kind of see the world through. And then through that lens, we think and we emote and we feel and we show up physically, right? So there's this relationship between the archetype of something and how we are thinking, how we are feeling, how we're moving emotion, and literally how our cells are showing up in the world, how we physically show up in the world. And so when we're doing that alchemical work, when we're trying to kind of look at what the pattern is so that we can move that emotion, so that we can heal that physical problem, whatever it is, then we have to look at that at every level. And the archetypes kind of give us this greater scope of what's going on. And so human design is one of those. Human design was downloaded by Ra Uru Hu. He got a major download in the 1980s. He kind of took it all in, put it all down, and got this download about how they all fit together. And then so it's relatively new, right? It's a relatively new when we think about the span of archetypes, for example. It's especially when we're looking at the I Ching, which is ancient, and the Kabbalah, which is ancient, and we're looking at the chakra system, which is ancient, right? So this kind of an astrology, right? So we're looking at it kind of through this newer lens, this kind of new lens for humanity, this new guide to how we're here to be. And so we had this big download in the 1980s. And then since then, it's been kind of being digested by the world, right? It's been kind of being taken in. People are experimenting with it, starting to kind of put it on, play with it, see where it holds true, where it has integrity, where it falls apart, all of those kinds of things, right? And so we fast forward to now, and in about 2018, we started to see a real resurgence or a real push forward in human design. So it's like it kind of came into the world, it went into this kind of realm of like, I need to try it on, I need to play around with it, I need to understand it. And now it's kind of out, it's starting to get out there. So you might have already heard of human design, you might already be practicing human design. I tend to think most people have heard of it, and I forget that a lot of people haven't, right? So that's kind of where we are. And actually, that process actually matches exactly kind of how something is brought to the collective through how the I Ching would look at that. And so I want to talk a little bit about the I Ching for a second, because for me, I got to human design because I kind of went backwards into it from the I Ching. The I Ching is an ancient Chinese text, so it has a deep and integrated relationship with 5-element work. And that's why, so I was really like, do I put this here or do I not put this here? But I think it's really important because as we go further, when we go further in the class, we really start to see the overlap and how they fit together. And I think that what we're going to talk about today is kind of a critical piece for the overall well-being of your clients, and especially if you're doing that deeper alchemical work. And so when we talk about human design, we have Ra Uru Hu who downloaded human design, kind of got that big picture. And then from there have been several students beyond him that have had their own downloads or have their own interpretations. The Gene Keys is one of those. And so that work is Richard Rudd's work. And he basically, the Gene Keys are a modern interpretation of the I Ching, where he really went to, so in the I Ching, that's an ancient text for self-actualization is what the point of the book was. And basically the book says there's 64 hexagrams, and those hexagrams kind of lay out the pathway towards our highest expression as a human. And they are interpreted through these different combinations of elements, right? So they have that layover with the extraordinary elements and then the 5 elements. And so the Gene Keys were kind of a modern interpretation of that, based on Richard Rudd was a student of Ra Uru Hu. And so he had already learned human design, and then he really wanted to go deeper into the gates. They're called gates in human design. They're called hexagrams in the I Ching. They're called Gene Keys in the Gene Keys. So they all come from the same kind of, from that perspective, they're all coming from the basis of the I Ching. And then human design has that I Ching, that Gene Key element, plus those other archetypal systems that I was talking about. In human design and in Gene Keys, there are charts that you can get for free on the internet. And so that's called you'll hear it called a body graph. in Gene Keys, it's hologenetic profile, right? But you can Google human design chart and you can get a free copy of it. It's based on your birthday and time. And so it's like astrology in that way. It's that kind of neutrino stream snapshot of who you were, who the light being of yourself is, right? At that moment, light of the universe was doing. And so you can get your chart, and then from there, I want to say with human design, with your chart, the goal is not to become your chart or to be your chart. The chart, I believe, is a guide. I don't believe in that we are our archetypes, right? Like that we get in these boxes. Like I'm a Libra in astrology, and so I think it's important for us to understand that an archetype is a gathering, it's an energetic dynamic that we're in relationship with. And so just because I have these things doesn't mean I am, like I'm not that thing and only that thing. We are all of the chart. We are all 64 gates. We have all of the centers. We have all of the profile lines. Like when we start to really get into human design, I often hear people talk about it in a way that is kind of like you are this and you are this, and people start to introduce themselves as I am a blank, 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 blank. And I just want to remind you from the get-go that it's really about, like, yes, we can use that to simplify the sentence, but we also have to hold the intention that we are not just those things, that those things are how we lead. They're energetic leads in our life, but we're in a dynamic relationship with our chart. When we begin to unpack the chart, we see that there are many archetypes within archetypes within archetypes within archetypes. So it's kind of a holographic lens of like what was happening in the neutrino stream at the time of our birth, and all of the fractals of that and how they play out in our life. And so today, as we move through this hour, we're really only going to start with the type, which is kind of the overarching. There are 5 types in human design. And what a type really means is that it's a way that our aura works. It's a way that we are here to create the strategy of who we are here to be. And from that being, how do I interact with the world around me? And so again, I think that's relevant to the 5 elements, because what I found when I with my clients and over the years of doing the work that I've done is that when I really understood my client's type, and a lot more than just that, but really that first level that we're talking about today, I really could kind of name where they were going to get a little bit of an imbalance in their 5 elements. Some of that is just because of, like, there's a deeper connection, like I said, between the 5 elements and the I Ching, but really getting somebody to align with their type and to move through the world in that way eliminates a ton of their stress, because often most of their stress comes from trying to live in a way that they were not designed, human design, to live. And that means energetically. So that's why it's here. That's why I want to kind of dive into it and talk about it more deeply today. Okay, so we're going to start. So again, there are 5 types, and we're going to go through each one really quickly and just give you the broad scope. There is so much information that you can learn about the types, and you can pretty much Google human design types, and you can Google any one of those types. And there are certainly many resources that you can reach out to learn more. In particular, I like to look towards Karen Curry Parker is someone who has done she worked directly with Ra Uru Hu and then has done more of a modern heart-centered interpretation of the work. I really like the way that she talks about it, but there are many people, Amy Lee and Jamie Palmer. There's many people out there kind of talking about the different types and the depth of human design. So we will go into depth in NeuroCohesion 1 and 2, but this is kind of your first broad pass of the types. So a generator. To be a generator means that they have consistent access to what we would call vital energy. So it's in the sacral chakra. It means they have what we would call in human design a defined sacral chakra, which means there's consistent energy in that center for them to use and to broadcast. And so from that place, they're natural, sometimes we call them builders, we call generators builders. They're here to kind of find a lane to respond to the world around them and then to build, to do. They're natural, they've got this energy to do things. They've got this natural, really rooted, grounded energy. And they're designed to bring a vision into form. And so sometimes that's their own vision, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but sometimes that's responding to other visions that are in the field, inspirations that come from source, or ideas that come from other types. That consistent energy in their sacral chakra allows them to be committed for the long haul. They can really, they want to, and they commit to kind of the long thing. So people that you see that have longevity in like a single thing throughout like a fairly long period of time in their life, that's usually generator energy. Like my best friend is an art jeweler, and we were art jewelers together. I used to be an art jeweler, and we were art jewelers together many, many years ago. And I changed course, and she has stayed on that track and continues to be an art jeweler and will be an art jeweler until she retires, right? So it's like, that's very generator. It's like a train on a track. It knows what it has, all the steam it needs to keep going on that track. The key to a generator is that they need to choose the track. And this is really the depth of it, right? Like they're often, because they have the energy to do things, they often have a lot of people wanting them to do things, wanting them to give their energy to things. And the goal here is to use that sacral energy that has a response that's a yes or a no in order for them to align with what's right for them. They will be lit up by it. So what we want is generators in the world who have chosen the work that they do, and then they do it really well, and they do it consistently, and they do it and they create something with it, right? So it's really about making a gut decision if it's right for you or not. There's so much conditioning in the world, though, about us saying yes when we mean no, or what we should do, or what we should be doing, how we should be doing that in action, right? So it's like, it's really the deconditioning for a generator is really getting out of what we should be doing and truly aligning with what that gut says yes or no to. And not, the brain will immediately start to try and change course, because that's what our brains do, but it's really following that gut instinct. Their natural strengths are to like that, they're powerhouses of energy. Sometimes I talk about like a generator is like they're full of magic. They just have a magic energy to bring to something. And if it's in alignment, they just keep that magic, it just keeps flowing. When something gets out of alignment, though, they can burn their magic out. They can kind of burn out that tank. They can go into adrenal exhaustion. They can go into exhausted, overwhelmed states, stressed states of being. And so we really want to help generators find their thing and the thing that they're responding to. It's not they think it is, they're really supposed to be in the world responding and getting a yes or a no answer. They're methodical and steady when they are in alignment, and they have that steady supply of doing energy. They feel warm, inviting, and dependable and grounded. When they're really centered and they're here doing what they're going to do, they feel satisfied, and they feel that satisfaction creates this warmth in their field. They kind of radiate satisfaction, which feels dependable and grounded, right? So, but their challenges are committing to the right ways of using their powerful doing energy, right? So if they're saying yes when they mean no, or if they're feeling like they're guilting themselves into decisions, or they're being pressured into decisions, then that's going to feel really out of alignment. So the shoulds in their life, they may really have challenges around saying no to the expectations of others, because other people can sense that they have the energy to get something done. So just because they can doesn't mean they should, or they have to, right? Like that's the goal here. They need to be really clear about what they want to do and what they don't want to do. They can do a lot of things. They can get a lot of stuff done, generators in general are going to want a single track. They don't love to have too many things going on. When they start to feel like they're having to juggle a lot of things, then they start to lose their centeredness. It doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means that they start to lose that centeredness. They can, because they have this energy to keep going, they can kind of have an expectation that everyone around them also has that amount of energy. And so they can get a lot of stuff done because they can keep going where other types can't. And so as long as they understand that not everyone has to give the same amount that they give because they can't, then that's a really great way to understand how people are working together. And it does all fit together. And they can get stuck in frustration. They have to wait to respond. So they're kind of like, they kind of are waiting for the next thing for them to respond to. And then something happens and they respond and they go. And then they kind of have to stop and wait for the next thing. That waiting for the next thing can create a lot of frustration in their lives because they have this deep energy that wants to go. They want to do the next thing. They want to give that energy to something. So holding it and waiting for something that feels in alignment can be a challenge. It can create frustration. Generators make up about 35% of the population. So it's a pretty hefty amount. And we're going to talk about it in a minute, but when you couple them with what we call manifesting generators, they make up about 70%, 70 to 75% of the total of humans. So this is an energy that we find a lot, right? So to know whether or not what type you are, again, you can go to our website, embodiedleadershipbydesign.com. There's a thing on there, but you can Google free body chart for human design. And the first thing it will tell you is your type. So, okay. The next type is called a manifester. Manifestors make up about 9% of the population. So they're a little more rare, right? Obviously, if we've got 30% and 30%, so 9% is it's a pretty small amount. Manifestors are here to be catalyzers. They're here to spark innovation. They're here to have an idea. But what they don't have is that consistent energy in their sacral chakra. So they have to borrow the energy to do something from generators. And so they have this, manifestors are really here to create something and to have a new idea. Like, I like to think that they're the spark, not necessarily even the fire, right? Like, they just get it started. If you were thinking about a car, they're the ignition, right? And then the car turns on and it drives, and so it's just that ignition moment. That's a manifestor's role in the world. They are often, though, being kind of forced into doer roles. Like, you should be able to then have the energy to do whatever it is, the idea you had, and they don't. They have to borrow that energy from other people. So on a really great team, they might have energy to keep going, but it won't be consistent, and they will need to have time to check out, time to, my husband's a manifestor, so it's often like he can go really hard because there's a lot of generator energy on his team, but then he has to kind of check out and rest. And sometimes that means he'll sleep for like a whole, like 16 to 20 hours. He just has to discharge it all, right? So their essential nature is to move quickly. They move really quickly. And they need the freedom to do that. They're getting these creative impulses, and they need to follow them. And they need to be allowed to go wherever it's going without feeling like they're being, like someone's trying to hold them back. If you think about, like, a toddler wants to run out and climb that tree, if they're a manifestor, they're going to get really mad when somebody tries to tell them that they can't do that in some kind of way, right? So it can be that kind of frustration and anger to them when they can't follow that pulse. They're often kind of risk takers, or they naturally are here to kind of challenge the norm, the challenge conformity. They question things, and they like to move. They need to move. They have a ton of that urge keeps them moving towards something. When they're really centered in their design, they're going to feel a sense of peace. Their natural gifts and strengths are to bring those new ideas and inspirations to the table, to the team, to the collective. They're here to create. new opportunities. They're here to like transform old thinking, old ways of being. They tend to have a really powerful voice. And so they like, you almost can't not notice them when they come into the room. Like they have a really solid presence, and they need to be free to work independently and move quickly on their own things. But their challenges is that they don't have a consistent energy level. It fluctuates depending on who they're around, and they need to discharge that. So they need a lot of freedom to show up hard when they show up and then retreat. When we expect them to see something through to completion, that's they don't have the energy to do that. That's not theirs. They can get stuck in overworking because without the signal that enough is enough from their sacral chakra, they can kind of go over. We call it the adrenalized husband, when he's like really jacked up on somebody else's energy. It's a lot, right? And so he can go hard. And so they can look like overworkers, even though they don't have consistent energy. They have what we call a closed aura. So they can feel really guarded, or it can be hard to read them. That aura is meant to kind of push people that would not be in alignment with them out of the way so that they can follow that urge. But it can be hard to be in relationship with because they can be fast and it can feel like you're getting pushed away. They need to slow down and inform people. This is what they're learning, is to slow down and inform everybody about what's going to happen. They need to think about who might be affected by my decision that I'm about to make. Inform those people. They're not asking permission, but inform them. Like, my husband and I'm like, you have to tell me, like, you can do it, but you have to tell me so that I can adjust, my lives. Because they can be so focused on that urge. So when they feel like they're being controlled or trapped, or they don't have the freedom to follow that urge, they get angry. So anger is going to be something that they'll know that they're not in alignment. Something's feeling misaligned. The next type is the manifesting generator. And so now we have a combination of those two. So all of the things that a manifesting generator is a generator first. So they're meant to follow that gut. They have that gut energy. They're meant to follow that sacral yes or no in their life, but they also have this effervescent manifesting energy where they can have these ideas and then they can follow through. And so our typical work culture, or what we value a lot in this society, is the energy of manifesting generator. If you think about like, with a lot of hard work, you can bring your dreams to fruition, right? That is a manifesting generator. They have a dream, then they have the energy to follow it, right? So it's like, not everybody can connect a dream. Like the manifestor might have the dream, the generator has the power to make it happen. Sometimes the generator isn't really sure what they're here to bring or build. And sometimes the manifestor doesn't have that energy to build it. And so a manifesting generator is someone who can, but they also often have very varied interests. They like a lot of different things. When you meet a manifesting generator, they feel effervescent, right? They've got like all this stuff going on. Often when we meet manifesting generators, we're like, how in the world are they doing all of that? How are they getting all that done? So, so just know, like, that's kind of the energy is combined. They're doers who move quickly, right? Like that, if you put those two things together, they're really here to show us the shortcut. They have a way of seeing through work that doesn't need to be done and going right to the place where it will be most effective if they put their energy. When they're feeling really centered, they're going to experience satisfaction and peace. They're going to feel at peace. They're going to feel satisfied with their work. You can tell a manifesting generator that's really centered because they have all that bubbliness. They have that warm generator energy, but like it's really grounded. Like it's like they embody their purpose completely, and it doesn't feel so. A manifesting generator can feel chaotic when they're not fully in their body and really grounded. So they can master several things over the course of time. They may have several train tracks where they're mastering something. They are good at multitaskers. People that resonate with the word multi-potentialite they're probably a manifesting generator. They've got a lot of interest and they're really good at it. And sometimes they have a hard time knowing where to put their energetic focus. That's when they need to slow down and listen to their gut. They're adaptable, they're flexible, and they can pivot really easily. Their challenges, they can move too quickly and they can miss stuff. They can skip important steps, or they didn't inform the right people, and then there's not people to help them bring it into the world. They can take on too much. They can expect, because they actually can get more done than most people, like then they can put their own expectation on them, or other people can expect them to get a lot done. And when they're feeling burnout and need to back off, they often have challenges with other people feeling like, well, you've been able to get all this stuff done in the past, why can't you do it now? So they have to learn to let go of something that's no longer in alignment. So if that gut instinct is no, it's time to let it go. They have to learn to do that. They can spread their energy too thin by saying yes to too many things because they're moving too fast to listen to that gut response. So really, you can already kind of tell a manifesting generator's biggest tool in their toolbox is slowing down, getting still, and listening to that gut. What am I supposed to be doing? Where do I need to put all this energy? And then I can follow that urge, right? When they're out of balance, they're going to feel anger and frustration. Remember, they're the combination. They're going to feel like trapped in something and frustrated that they can't move forward. The next type is the projector. If you think about the projector, it's like the sage, or the coach. We see projectors as someone who is guiding other people. They kind of guide the process. They're here to hold a bigger template for what's possible and then guide us as we bring those things into fruition, right? So they're here to, they don't have that consistent sacral energy. So they're not here to focus on doing or building. They're really here to kind of like hold the template of what the possibility is and guide the process so it ends up in that place. They're great directors, right? Like they're one of my kiddos is a projector, and she is the I lost the word, the person that you check in with at a restaurant, right? And so she the hostess. And that's a really great role for her. One, she's 17, but two, she is guiding the process. She knows like how many people have been sat in what section and who needs to be sat next and what needs to get cleaned up. So doesn't mean that she has to go do it, but she can easily kind of fit all that together and see it, right? So it doesn't just mean like coach or sage or director. Like you can find that role in lots of different places. When they're really centered, they feel successful. When they've done their job and everything is like going on track, they feel a sense of success. They're here to naturally see the most productive way an efficient way to orchestrate something, right? To put it all together. They deeply sense and know, they're very energetically intuitive, and they deeply sense and know other people. Their aura, though, is penetrating. So it's like they can see through all of your stuff. And so that can feel really uncomfortable if you haven't invited that. So they really need to wait for the invitation. That's what they have to learn. So they might be able to tell you, they might be able to see how you could course correct and make something better in your life or do it differently. But unless you ask for their advice, it doesn't usually feel good to receive it. And projectors usually spend a lot of their lives kind of having to learn the balance between what I know could be possible and being asked about my opinion, right? So that's one of the things that they really have to play with. They do really well in one-on-one because they can really see, or small groups, they can really see what needs to shift. And as long as they've been invited to share their advice, it's really helpful. And they need that recognition, right? Like, so projectors are kind of like their core wound is like, I'm not being seen, I'm not being appreciated, right? So we can really see that they need to be seen and validated, but they literally also have to be invited. You have to invite them to share what they know or what they're experiencing with you. So they can tend to give advice when it's not asked for, and that doesn't feel good. They can come across a little bit like, I told you should be doing these things. They can feel really undervalued because they don't feel like they're being seen, or no one is really affirming their gifts. they don't have that consistent energy of the builder, and so they can get burnt out because they're not really here to do. They're here to guide, and that is a very hard thing in our culture for them to learn to do, because our culture really validates doing as a way of being. And so it's very hard a lot of times for projectors to find their place where they don't have to be the doer, and they can be without having to like sacrifice some doing to it. So when they're not feeling seen and they don't feel appreciated and they haven't been celebrated in some kind of way, they can feel bitter. And that is the way that they know that they might be trying to push something, and they need to just surrender back and wait for the invitation. And then the last type is called a reflector. These are only, well, so I want to go back. The projectors are about 20% of the population, although we are seeing more of them now than we have in the past. But the reflector is only about 1%. And what the reflector is like, they're a natural barometer of their environment. So they actually energetically, they're kind of in every single center of their body, they're kind of taking in the energy of the environment, amplifying it and reflecting it back. And so I say, this is awful, but I kind of say reflectors are like the salamander of society. It's like, you can tell how well the ecosystem is doing by how healthy the salamander is, right? And that's kind of what the reflector is. Like if a reflector is looking like things are not good, they're a mess, their emotions are a mess, their physicality is a mess. That's a reflection that the environment that they live in is not healthy. And that environment includes everything from the people, the places, the interactions, the career, right? Like, and so they have to really, they're here to really observe and reflect back, but they also have to really be aware of their environment, because they're really highly sensitive to it, because they're meant to be. They're meant to kind of have this fluid energy and experience things in a lot of different ways. They need to move around a lot. They need to, like at work, they may need to work from like different offices and different desks. They need to experience all this different stuff in order to reflect back the true energetic state of the environment. They need a long time, we would say even a whole lunar cycle, to make decisions about the big things in life. And again, culture kind of pushes us to make decisions really quickly, and we're accelerating that in this time. And so a reflector actually needs about a whole lunar cycle to know whether or not they really want to move or buy that car, or on the big stuff. It can happen faster on some of the smaller stuff, but they really need a lot of time and space to experience it in all of the different emotional states before they can say yes or no. So they're designed to experience surprise because they're not attached, right? So that because they're really designed to be this very keen observer, they're like, when they're in their observer mode, then the gift of that is that they're often surprised by what's good. They're surprised at how naturally divine intelligence aligned things for them so that they got the thing they needed right in the right timing. So there's this kind of awe and wonder and surprise for a reflector when they're really in harmony. Like I said, they're natural barometers of their environment. They're here to evaluate the process or the project. So like if you had a team of people, the reflector would be kind of showing you whether or not you're like, it's reflecting whether or not it's all good, it's working. The projector is guiding it well, the generators are building it well, the manifestors are having great ideas. And in that situation, the reflector would be thriving. They'd be in lots of surprise and laughter and ease and surrender. Because they're in that non-judgmental, or they're meant to observe, they tend to be very objective and non-judgmental. They're intuitively aware of how healthy environment is. So if they're trying to retreat, that is a symbol, or that it's time for them to kind of like, like something's not healthy in the environment. Reflectors are often drawn more towards animals, which feel softer and healthier anyway. So often they're kind of want to retreat to their space with their animals. And yeah, they're gifted at sensing what is or isn't working for the team or the environment or the family, right? So they also do not have access to that consistent energy. So they have this ebbs and flows of energy, which make it very hard to have a work life that says it has to be this way. They need space to like come and go as their energy allows, and a lot around the lunar cycle. So they really can't be forced to do consistent energy or show up in a consistent way. Um, they they can feel this sense to like they have to watch their shoulds and how they're being there's a lot of deconditioning, we would say, for reflectors around like what other people, what society says, what their family beliefs are, what their ancestral patterns are, like a lot of that deconditioning work so that a reflector can get really clean, which is just open centers with no narrative, right? And because they're so open to other people's energies, they're prone to taking in stuff that isn't theirs and accidentally telling themselves that it is theirs. And so they become kind of their own narrative. So there's a lot of kind of like having to decondition that story in somebody's body. And they can be prone to like burnout and overwhelm and exhaustion from an environment, right? Or being caught up in those pressures and those expectations from what's going on around them. And when everything is like out of balance, they will feel disappointment. Like they got too in it and they didn't allow for the space to observe. And so they're kind of disappointed by what's going on around them. And that's their sign that things are not really in alignment for them. So, okay, so that's the 5 types in human design. Those are just the types. We're not there's much more to human design, right? There's the whole astrology. There's all of the gates that are highlighted by the astrology. There's profile lines. There's a lot of depth to human design and what's going on. But in this little masterclass, right? Like I really want to kind of just have this correlation between, you can easily see if someone is not living in alignment with their type. So let's just use a manifestor, for example. A manifestor that's feeling really trapped by their environment or their career or their team or their family, they're going to have a lot of anger, right? And so it doesn't make them a wood energy in 5 elements, but it probably means that their wood might be out of balance because anger pathways live in the wood energy. So wood gets really out of balance when we're anger, and so does fire. So you can feel that fiery, like the stress of the anger, right? It's fiery. And so you might be looking at patterns where their wood tends to get out of balance. And when a wood is out of balance, when there's too much wood, then it might be feeding the fire too fast. Fire might not be able to feed earth. Wood maybe is over controlling earth. So earth gets like not enough. Now the earth is not enough and it can't control water. It isn't feeding metal, right? So you start to see these these imbalances that are pretty predictable in the 5 elements as they relate to someone being in alignment or not in alignment with their type in human design. And that's why I added it here. And that's why we added it into the future of NeuroCohesion, because I feel like they work together. It's like helping someone unpack who they're designed to be so that they can then be in healthy relationships. And then from that place, they can serve humanity with their gifts, their talents, and their purpose. That's what human design gives us. That's what the gene keys give us. And then 5 element works helps us to reharmonize and to find those patterns that need to be supported and harmonized in the genius so that they can see what was maybe we're saying to them, it looks like your wood is a little out of balance. And so, have you been angry? Or anger seems to be showing there. Is there something that's making you feel really angry? And beginning to really kind of pick that apart, get deeper than just saying, oh, I'm going to harmonize anger or I'm just going to harmonize wood. It's like, what is making them feel frustrated? because bringing their awareness to that thing that's making them feel angry is part of them being in alignment with their type in human design, who they're here to be. Human design helps us to unpack, to have the guide necessary to really live our highest potential, right? So again, the I Ching was a thing that said, like, these are the 64 ways in which we can self-express as our highest expression. But it also shows us the shadows of that, right? So we always have kind of, we talk about it as tri energy. Like there's a shadow state, there's a gift state, and then there's the highest expression. And that kind of comes through in Richard Rudd's work, where he talks a lot about the shadow of a gate, the gift of that gate, and then the highest expression of that gate. And so as somebody is really working with their chart, it's helping to begin to see how parts of them might be living out the lower or shadow expression of some of this stuff that they were here to kind of, it's kind of maybe one of their soul challenges, their soul school, right? And they have this part that's in relationship to that. And then we can help them, we can help harmonize the system using the genius. We can help harmonize the dysregulation that part or that shadow might be causing, so that's restorative, while simultaneously beginning to help them see the pattern or the way through so that they can have that higher expression. The way through is often the gift, what they're trying to get, what they're trying to learn, what they're trying to transmute. And they use that gift to transmute it into the higher expression. And so again, I just want to point to, you can begin to see where we weave these things together. The more we learn about the 5 elements and how they fit together, and then we start to overlay this map to their potential, then you really have at its essence, you have this very deep and transformative practice. And when you have a deep and transformative practice, then you're creating really long-term relationships with your clients. The result for you as a practitioner is that you're having transformational success, meaning that it's not just feeling better for a little bit of time, but people are making deep and important life changes that help them feel better physically, better emotionally, better mentally, and more aligned spiritually. And so when you do that, they're going to have more success. They're going to feel like they're actually getting to be involved in their own healing journey, which is, that's something that I teach in my classes, is that as a practitioner, we're not just here to fix someone. We're here to hold the potential of what they could be, and then hold their hand as they express that way, and showing them where things might be out of balance, while simultaneously doing some of that restorative work so that they can feel better. So it's the both and, right? And when you put all of those things together and you begin to understand the 5 elements and how that shows up on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level, and then you begin to really understand human design and helping people unpack their particular journey, then you really are able to help people. It's no longer just about healing a back problem or helping them move through anxiety, right? You're helping them actually live their purpose. And that has a ripple effect. And their purpose isn't necessarily their career. You're helping them align with who they're here to be. And when they can do that, they live a life on purpose. And when people are lit up and living a life that's on purpose, it means they're radiating truth, authenticity, and joy from their heart center. And people that radiate joy from their heart center attract more amazing opportunity. And they have a ripple effect. They have a long-term impact that moves out from you, right? So it's like you're kind of shifting a little bit from people are coming to me for me to fix them, to people are coming to me because I can help them fix themselves. I can help them be more clear about who they are so that they can have the tools necessary to understand when they're in harmony and when they're not, or when a shadow is really active and when they're in the higher expression of that gift, right? So Okay, I have been talking solidly for 15 minutes. So I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm just going to first just check in with everybody who's here. Does anybody who's here have any questions about, because human design might be new. I know some of you already know it or have heard me talk about it, but I just want to check to see if there's any questions here first. And you can pop them in the chat. If you have questions, I'll open the chat so I can see it. I don't see that anybody's typing, so I'll keep checking over there. But what I want you to take away from today is kind of a first wash. If this is your first introduction to human design, just allow it to kind of wash over you. Like, what was that thing she was talking about? Just let it be in your field a little bit. And then notice, probably, if it is the first time, then probably you're gonna have an experience really quickly where someone else starts talking about human design. Yeah, so that's a great question. So Inanna, is that how you say that? That's such a beautiful name. And I might be saying it wrong. I might be butchering it. I'm sorry. But asked, are you going to bring up the gene keys? And so I did a little bit at the beginning. You might have missed that. But let's go back and let's really make that correlation that the human design, the gene keys, and the I Ching are all things that we kind of address when we're looking at human design and the gene keys in NeuroCohesion. And the gene keys are Richard Rudd's. I'm just going to restate that for everybody. Richard Rudd's interpretation. They're a modern interpretation, I love him. He's one of my favorite humans on earth. He has a very deep and contemplative journey with the gates, with each of those 64 expressions of our higher being. And actually, to write his book, he literally sat with each gate of those 64 gates. He sat with each one until it gave him the answer. And sometimes that was really quickly, and he was able to write the chapter on that gate really quickly. But sometimes he talks about it took him a year to really contemplate the gate long enough to get the message, to really have it and share it. And so it was a beautiful process of him writing that book and bringing it into the world. So and so the second half of that question was the libraries. So in this masterclass, what you got was the 5-element emotional library, which is to help you create harmony in the 5 elements. In NeuroCohesion, the class itself, there are many more libraries that we work with, that we pull into that. And so that's like, there are more libraries in the class. But if you're interested in having just the gene keys as libraries, I do believe, I know someone has already put those out into the world, that you can get those. And I just can't remember at the moment who it is that wrote them, but they wrote them based on the gene key book. There are libraries in NeuroCohesion 2, which is a whole nother class after NeuroCohesion 1, in which those libraries do have more human design libraries that come with NeuroCohesion 2. But for now, because you can't get those until NeuroCohesion 2, in NeuroCohesion 1, you can look for those gene key libraries that already exist. Cheryl says, thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that. She's got some gene key libraries that she wrote. And that she offered it for free. Cheryl, I don't know if you're still offering it for free, but maybe in the Mighty Network community, let people know if you want to share that library. That would be amazing. One of the things that I really believe in my realm is connection, right? Like, I'm here to teach you more of the process, and I'm going to show you how to use other people's libraries to make that happen. I'm also going to give you a ton of libraries that match what we're doing, but I really believe we're all here to lift each other up and to work together to bring these tools into fruition, into the world, right? So sharing and collaborating, those are really important things. Those are high values in my life. So, okay, so we're kind of running out of time. Yeah, Ariel does sell some libraries at geniusbiofeedback.com if you guys are looking there. Ariel has a bajillion libraries for you to get lost in. Okay, so we're just going to wind that up for today so that we can keep it all together, but I want to kind of talk about the next steps. So this is the end of our masterclass, which has been went like so fast, and it's been really great. We've had really great feedback, and I really want to say I'm so grateful for all of you that have come and been here live, but for all the people that have watched it afterwards and sent me feedback and asked me questions. It's just been a really great experience. And so thank you. The next step is that we will be opening the cart for registration for NeuroCohesion 1. NeuroCohesion 1 will start in September. So once that cart is open, we'll have a little bit of time, and then we'll start classes. We'll kick off in early September. So you will get an email from Inside Health Apps where you can put your name on the wait list. And then once your name is on that list, we will start sending out some information about registration and things like that. But right now, if you want to skip all of that, you can go straight to the neurocohesion.com website. And if you hit learn more and drop down, there's a For Genius Practitioners page, and the cart is open there. So you can go ahead and register if you know you want to take it. You can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, put your name on the wait list that's going to come out from Inside Health Apps later on. I think it might go out later on today or over the weekend, maybe Monday, but just keep your eyes out for it. If you are here and you have been someone who has taken the class before and you want to go through the new protocols, you want to go through it the new way, let me know so that I can get you your repeater link so that you can register through a repeater link. And then, yes, I did have some libraries that went out with this. If you will just quickly put your email, if you're here and did not get the libraries for some reason, just drop your email real quick in the chat, and I will get you those libraries. I want to make sure that everybody that attended got those libraries. And again, remember, those are kind of that first level of neurocohesion, that emotional level of the 5 elements. The class itself comes with what some might say an overwhelming amount of libraries. So I do see all of you that have put your emails in there. So I'm just going to copy and paste them real quick. So don't lose them. Hold on, y'all. I just don't want to lose those. All right. Do that. And then just make sure, I should say this here because we had a little bit of trouble. Make sure that this is the email that you have registered at Inside Health Apps, because we had a couple people who had different emails on the list, and then they didn't get the libraries. So just make sure that I have that it's the same one, and we will get information to you. I see you, Ruth. All right. And then okay, so then hold on, let me write this down. I'm going to answer that last question, which is you will be able to see the replays of this masterclass, which has been a free 6-week series. NeuroCohesion 1, the class is not free. That is a deep container in which it's hold on, I'm going to write down one more. NeuroCohesion 1 is a 4 to 6 month container. We're trying to do it in 4, but we're going to advertise it as 6 months because of making sure that there's plenty of time, because sometimes we're putting it together in a bit of a different way for Inside Health Apps. So we just want to make sure it all fits. I do want to say to that, this is the last time I will be teaching it in such a high touch way. So we're offering it this time for 15% off for Genius practitioners, which makes it like 3 payments of $407, I think, or $408 is the total for this round of NeuroCohesion. And this is the last time that will be taught this way, and then taught high touch, meaning that it'll be live with me twice a month. Going forward, we're going to have it'll be more evergreen. And so And we'll make sure everybody knows that this is kind of the last time that I'm teaching it live. So, I think I've got everybody that put their email here. And again, I just want to say thank you for showing up and coming every Friday, especially with all the glitches of timing and the registration link. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. And I hope to see you in NeuroCohesion 1. Again, that first email will go out from Insight Health App sometime in the next few days. And if you're curious now, you can go to neurocohesion.com. You can already register for the Genius one on the Genius page on there. And so thank you again. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I will see you very soon. All right, bye y'all. Thank you.